Welcome to the replay of Skip the Reading Log, Smarter Summer Routines for Kids with Dyslexia. My name is Dr. Brennan Chandler. I'm an assistant professor of dyslexia at Georgia State University, and I also coordinate the Dyslexia Endorsement Program. I'm a literacy researcher, dyslexia specialist, and educator. I received my PhD in learning disabilities from the University of Texas at Austin and have over 9 years of experience as a special educator, dyslexia interventionist, and now as a college professor. I'm working on expanding my reach to families to bring what we know from research and reading science directly to parents. I'm here to help you cut through the noise and focus on what works for kids with dyslexia. Before we dive in, a few housekeeping notes. So first, there's a Google Drive link, and there's a digital playbook that's available to help you follow along. You can download it anytime. It includes today's routines, the phonics survey I'm going to talk about, and more resources for you. And I encourage you to stay connected. You can visit my website for upcoming free webinars, workshops, and other resources at brennanchandler.com. Here's an overview for tonight's webinar. First, I'm going to discuss why typical summer reading plans miss the mark. Then I'm going to discuss 5 smarter routines to build reading skills for kids with dyslexia or other reading difficulties. I'm going to discuss how to customize this for your child. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about some resources I have for you. Why skip the reading log? Well, first, there's no strong research support. Simply logging books doesn't build kids' decoding skills, fluency, or spelling skills. Also, quality does not always transfer to skill. Reading more without deliberate practice doesn't automatically improve reading ability. If your child's reading Dogman every day but still struggling to decode multisyllabic words or bigger words, it's not a sign that they're not trying. It's a sign they need a different kind of support. Also, it's a missed opportunity. So we want to have our kids spend time on research-based routines that strengthen the skills that kids need to read independently. So here's a summer shift. We're going to shift from logging books without building skills to targeted routines that build decoding, spelling, and fluency skills. Why? Because we want skill building and not checkbox filling, confidence, not burnout, and progress over pressure. There's been an amazing shift towards bringing reading science into schools, which is huge, but just knowing what skills matter, like phonemic awareness, decoding, and fluency, isn't enough. We also have to know how kids with dyslexia best learn those skills, and that's where cognitive and learning science come in. I operate from both reading science and learning science. So the routines I'm walking you through today and the larger structured literacy at home system are built from both the best research in reading development and what we know about how students with individual differences in learning acquire and retain. The routines I'm walking you through tonight are aligned with reading science and how kids best develop reading skills. So just like building a house, strong reading starts with a solid foundation. And that solid foundation, especially for kids with dyslexia, are sound skills or subword skills. I'm going to talk about 2 tonight: phonemic awareness, which is manipulating sounds, and handwriting, the precursor to spelling or writing words. Next are word skills. So we go from the basement to the main floor. Those are word skills. So decoding or reading words or attacking words, and spelling skills. So encoding or writing words. And then the goal of reading is at that text level or text skills. I'm going to talk about building text skills and reading fluency and overall reading comprehension. So we want to lay the foundation, but we also want to keep building all the floors at once. We don't just want to live in the basement. We want to make sure that we're supporting kids over the summer in their sound skills, their word skills, and their text skills together. I'm going to also talk about these routines built on strong learning science principles. So all of these routines are built on this premise of explicit instruction. We need to directly model and teach skills. We don't want kids to guess. We don't want to teach them vague strategies. This lowers the cognitive load and sets students up for success when we directly teach them skills. We're also going to make sure we limit new information kids might not know. So we want to limit brand new material to about 10 to 15% at a time. Most of the workout, I'm going to talk about these routines as a summer workout, is routine building. It's review and reinforcement of previously taught skills. Also, we want to make sure we have this cumulative review, so skills don't disappear after a week. Patterns, sounds, and strategies are revisited across routines to reinforce long-term memory. Also, we want to provide immediate feedback. We're going to correct errors quickly and positively to strengthen learning before mistakes stick. Next, we want to make sure that we have minimal rules but maximum practice. So we want to avoid overwhelming kids with dozens of reading and spelling rules and instead focus on direct and flexible practice and strategies with sound patterns and words. And finally, we want to make sure we engage our children in deliberate practice. We want short but focused practice on specific skills and not just random drills or practice exercises. Every rep or every practice opportunity in these routines has a purpose, a specific and deliberate purpose. So here are the overview of the 5 smarter summer routines that I'm going to be talking about. And you can see each of the routines, the focus, suggested time for the routine if you're going to use all of these together with your child, and then a quick overview of what each routine is. So we have handwriting hustle. That's at that sub-word or sound level. That's that transcription fluency, making sure kids can actually write and form letters. Then we have sound power practice, gets at phonemic awareness. So these are both sound or sub-word skills. And then at the word level, we have word workout and spelling sprint. And then finally, at the text level, we have Fluency Dash. So there's 3 steps I have in each of these routines, and it's the plan it, teach it, adapt it. It's a 3-step teaching framework that you can use at home with your kids this summer. So I'm going to go over each routine, and each is going to have a plan it phase. So how to prep for the routine, how to teach it. In each routine, we're going to model it. That's that I do it. So the parent, you're going to model it very quickly. We do, you're going to practice it a little bit together, and then you do, they're going to try it on their own. And then finally, I'm going to give you ways to adapt it, adapting it based on what you see with your child. You might want to review it, reteach it, or maybe add some challenge or extension opportunities, and I'm going to walk you through that. Time to go over the summer literacy workout routine. So these are 5 different routines. I'm calling them the summer workout for kids, and we're going to talk about each of the routines and how they map on to sound skills, word skills, and then finally text skills. We're going to start with the sound skills first, that basement level, that sound level knowledge. And the first routine is sound power practice. So what is it? It's a quick daily sound game. They can be done in the car, focusing on blending, stretching, and changing sounds and words. And it builds a foundation for accurate reading and spelling. So this gets at that phonemic awareness, the ability to manipulate sounds. And why does this matter? Students with dyslexia often need extra support hearing and working with sounds. Blending sounds together is vital for word reading, like b, at, bat. And segmenting or taking sounds apart is important for spelling. If I say cat, you would segment the sounds k, at. And we know from research that strong phonemic awareness boosts decoding skills, spelling skills, and word memory. So how do you do it? So let's plan it. This is the 3-step teaching framework for sound power practice. First, pick about 5 to 7 quick sound tasks. You can think about blending sounds, segmenting sounds, and then just manipulating sounds overall. So remember that blending sounds is really necessary for word reading. Segmenting is necessary for spelling. And then we have other phonemic awareness tasks like substituting sounds, deleting sounds, or adding sounds. These are advanced and less vital, but can be done for a challenge. Next is teach it. I'm going to model how you would teach blending. I might say to my child, let's play a word game. Listen. At. Mat. Let's do one together. Listen. At. Say it fast. Rat. Your turn. Say the sounds fast. Listen. N-a-t. Say it fast. What word? Good, not. So that's for blending. Remember, blending is really vital to help students, to help children read words. It helps them see print on a page and read words and sound them out. Again, this can be done orally, though, in the car. You don't actually need any materials for this activity. Now for segmenting. So this is what we would do for segmenting. This is really important for kids so they can help support them in their spelling skills. I might say something like this. We're going to take some words apart. Listen. Not. N-ot. Let's do one together. Listen. rat. Say the sounds with me. At. Your turn. Listen. Gnat. Take the sounds apart. At. Gnat. So those are just a few examples of how you might use this for blending and segmenting. Again, can be done in the car, can be done at the kitchen table, any time to get some reps in practicing manipulating sounds. So how would you adapt this? If students are struggling, your child's struggling, you might want to use what we call continuous sounds. That means dragging the sounds out without missing a beat. So instead of saying at, say it fast, mat for the blending routine or blending practice, I might say something like this. Listen, I'm going to say a word slowly, then I want you to say the word fast. Mat. What word? Mat. That can help kids if we use those continuous sounds. If it's easy for them though, add more challenging tasks. You can have them substitute or delete sounds. For example, all right, say the word mat. Good, mat. Now I want you to change the to s. What word? Sat. Yes, sat. Some other adaptations for sound power practice, you can use objects, you can have your child tap their fingers to help them segment or blend, move coins, or use letter tiles. And if you use counters, one sound for one counter. So in the word chat, like I'm going to chat with you on the phone, it has 3 sounds. Ch, at. So we would use 3 counters or 3 coins for that. You can also mix difficulty. So start with 2 to 3 sounds, and then maybe you build up to 4 to 5 sound words. You can start with even 2, like in the word at. Also, it might be fun to add some movement. You can jump, clap, or step for each sound. Really fun summertime opportunities here. Okay, the second routine is handwriting hustle. And what is it? It's a short, focused routine to build handwriting fluency. Kids practice forming letters, and these are just really quick reps to boost automaticity. And why does this matter? So automatic typing or handwriting frees up working memory for spelling, composing, and reading fluency. It really helps free up mental energy. So when writing becomes automatic or letter formation becomes automatic, kids can focus more on spelling, reading, and thinking, not just how to form each letter. And often, students with dyslexia and often co-occurring dysgraphia need explicit handwriting instruction. So research shows that with correct, clear, direct practice, kids with dyslexia can actually make better gains here. So first, plan it. I want you to pick about 2 to 3 letters to focus on every time you're going to do this with your child. You can look at their handwriting and some writing samples and think, what letters are they struggling with making the formations correctly? Or what letters are really tricky for them still? Then after you look at that, you can group similar shapes together. So for example, A, E, O go together. They're more of those circular shapes. L, T, I go together. They're more of those vertical shapes. And then you can get materials ready. So you can do handwriting paper or plain line paper, a pencil, and maybe even a highlighter if needed for them to trace over. So here's the teaching part of the handwriting hustle. So for the I do, you're going to model it quickly. You're going to say specific movement cues aloud while writing. This really helps kids. So for example, for letter A, I might say, all right, I'm going to start in the middle, make a circle back to the starting point, and then straight down. You might want to show slow and deliberately using big motions if needed. Those cues can really help children. And if you need some extra guidance with what cues to say, if you just Google Handwriting Without Tears, which is a really great handwriting program that is really easily accessible and affordable for parents if you want to practice over the summer, they have really good letter formation cues. For example, for E, they have, we start at the midline, hit the baseball, run the bases, and then back down. So that's just an example of a handwriting program you might want to use. In the we do, you would say the movement cues out loud together while forming the letter. So if I'm teaching the letter A, I'm going to model it for them. I'm going to show them. And then the we do, we're going to do it together. So they're going to be practicing making the letter formation, and then I'm going to be practicing it with them. And then you do, you're going to have your child form the letter while quietly saying the steps aloud if helpful. And make sure you watch out for proper direction and letter size placement as well. If your child's struggling, you might want to use highlighter tracing first. So you might on a lined piece of paper, make a bunch of A's or E's or O's and have them actually trace along the highlighter or even trace your pencil path. And if they're struggling, maybe you just stick with 1 to 2 letters at a time until formation is automatic. Remember, this handwriting hustle, it's a quick routine. We're not spending a lot of time on this, just some brief practice to get those handwriting skills automatic. If it's too easy for them, you might want to move from letters to copying simple words using the same shapes. Focus on keeping size and spacing consistent across the page. Sometimes I challenge the students I work with, let's see if you can keep each A the same size. Also, if it's easy, I'd love to do this. Maybe you add in sounds while writing the letters. A says ah, E says eh, I says I, as they're actually practicing letters. That's a great way to embed some sound skills in with this transcription skill. All right, those were our sound skill routines. So we have sound power practice and handwriting hustle. Those really build the foundation of literacy, of reading and writing. And now we're on to word skills. So there's 2 routines here I'm going to go over, word workout and spelling sprint. So before we get into the word level routines, it's really important to have a little temperature check and see where your child is. So in the Google Drive folder, there's a where to start. There's a quick phonics check I have in there. And it's a quick prep. You're going to go ahead and administer this really brief assessment to your child because children with dyslexia often have gaps in phonics pattern knowledge. So phonics, the understanding that a letter represents a sound, right? They often struggle and have gaps with different types of phonics patterns. Things like vowel teams, EE, EA, R control vowels like AR, ER, IR, OR, and also suffixes. So in the playbook, you're going to print the phonics check and make note of what areas they struggle in. So there's all these different sections on the phonics check that you can look over. And if they struggle reading 2 or more words in a certain section, a certain skill, I would recommend starting there with your word workout and your spelling. And yeah, again, focus your word workout and spelling sprint on tricky patterns in that quick phonics check. You might know what they're struggling with already, but that kind of gives you a nice place to start. We want to make sure that we actually start at a certain point and that we're making sure that we're efficient with our practice over the summer. So routine 3 is word workout. And what is it? It's a quick routine that gives students fast, focused practice with important phonics patterns that they really need to know to be able to read words in English efficiently. So in word workout, kids read and spell a few target words that share a common spelling pattern. So you might teach your child really quickly that AI can say, that says A, EA can say or E, or maybe even a suffix. And why does this matter? We want students to have daily phonics reps that helps them get at stronger, faster word reading. We really want to help them lock in that print to sound connection for lasting literacy growth and help them crack what we call the alphabetic code. We want to help them crack the secret code that is the English language. So we're going to actually explicitly teach and practice all these different letter patterns in our language. This helps turn that guesswork they might have when they're reading into confident decoding, one phonics pattern at a time. So first, you're going to plan it. You're going to pick a phonics focus and you're going to think about gaps in their phonics survey. So my child, they might be doing pretty good, but they really struggle with AI and AY vowel patterns. And then you're going to pick about 5 to 15 words tied to that phonics focus. So I'm going to think about words that have AI and AY in them, usually single syllable words that really will help them practice applying that skill in this routine. First thing we're going to do when we teach it then, we're going to quickly model and introduce the phonics concept or the target phonics pattern we're doing that day. So I might say something like, today we're learning about the vowel team AI. When you see AI in a word, it says A. What sound? A. Yeah, it says A like in the word rain. I might have this on, I might have phonics cards that have all the patterns that we're going to learn, like little note card flashcards. And I also sometimes might write words on a whiteboard or have words printed out for students that I work with. And then you're going to sound out some words together. So usually I make a list of words. You can print it out. You can write them on a whiteboard. And you're going to practice actually sounding these words out together. That's the word workout. And all of these words have the phonics pattern that you are practicing with them for that day, that they really missed on their quick phonics check. So the we do is sounding out words together. I might say, let's sound out a few words together with the AI spelling. Let's sound out the word correctly, then say it fast together. Let's do this next one. I'll point to the word. I'll say, get ready, rail. What word? Rail. If students really struggle, I might sound it out continuously. I might say, let's read the word, but let's read each sound without stopping in between. Get ready, rail. What word? Rail. So again, that kind of helps, like in that sound power practice, really scaffold and support them with that continuous sounding out. And then the you do is the independent practice. So after doing some sounding out some words together, you might say, your turn to sound out the words, then say the word fast. Or you might say, your turn to say these words the fast way. Your student or your child, they might not need that support of practicing actually decoding or blending the sounds together. They might be able to see these words and sort of either subvocally blend, which we want students to eventually do, kind of whisper the sound to themselves, then say it fast, or they still, again, might need that support. If your child gets any of these wrong, again, we want to immediately correct their errors in a supportive way. I might say something like, if the words rail and they say rain, I might say, oh, not quite. That word is rail. What word? Rail. Try it again. We want to make sure we have immediate error correction so those errors, those mistakes don't stick. So how do you adapt the word workout? So if your child's struggling, model again and practice using those continuous sounds. Rail. What word? Rail. And I like children, if they're struggling, to use their pointer finger and really point under each of the letters as they're saying the sounds. And sometimes even something that can help with those vowel teams like AI and AY, your child might think, oh, those are making individual sounds. And no, when we see AY together, it makes the A sound. It makes one sound. 2 letters, 1 sound. And with that, I might highlight then the vowel teams in there. That might help them begin to see, oh, these 2 letters, they're 2 letters, it makes 1 sound. Also, if it's easy, you can teach and review multiple spellings at a time. AI and AY go together nicely. EE and EA can go together nicely because they both say E. Also, you can add in review words. It's really important. We want to keep reviewing with your child things that they were taught maybe yesterday or maybe over the school year. So you can also, in those word lists, throw in some review words with phonics patterns you either taught previously, maybe the week or 2 before, or also patterns that some of them that they've mastered before that they just need a little bit more review with. Something else you could do is you can add in decodable sentences, like simple sentences containing the phonics patterns taught, or even a small little passage in there. That might help them too be able to generalize those spellings, those phonics patterns into connected text. Here are some more adaptations for word workout. So you might want to review with the phonics deck every time you do this routine. So you could do a quick review of previously taught phonics spellings that you've done all summer. You can make your own phonics deck, meaning take note cards and just write the letters out on them, or you can buy one online. I really like there's a phonics deck from William Van Cleve Publishing Company. They have a really nice phonics deck. Wilson Reading has one as well. Again, or you could just make your own. Also, you could add a timer challenge. So a lot of things that I like to do with students I work with is to gamify it as much as I can and make it a little more engaging. So since it's called a word workout, you might go like, okay, I want you to read this list 1 time and then I'm going to time you. And if you beat the clock the next time, maybe they can earn a small prize or a sticker. Also, like I said before, it's really important if you want to mix in review patterns. So adding words from past phonics patterns for that extra cumulative practice really helps build their word memory over time. 4th routine is spelling sprint. In spelling, it's at the word level. It's the opposite of decoding. It's encoding. So what it is, it's a fast, focused sound to spelling routine. Kids hear a word, they tap it out, and then they write the word. This targets both phonics patterns, and you can also target high-frequency irregular words in our English language. Why does this matter? Well, spelling supports this cognitive idea of orthographic mapping, where we actually link sounds to spelling patterns in memory. Orthographic mapping is this cognitive process that allows us to just look at a word and recognize it instantly without sounding it out. Spelling really helps bind together our speech to print connections. Also, spelling helps build spelling and reading skills. Encoding or spelling boosts decoding or reading. It really is a double dose of literacy when we have kids spell. It might be a little more demanding because it really is more cognitively demanding. They're having to retrieve sounds and spell them from memory versus just looking at a spelling on a piece of paper and then actually retrieving those sounds. And this really helps target the root of spelling difficulties by reinforcing the sound symbol connections explicitly. So we're really going to be explicit here and systematic in how we're teaching spelling patterns. So here's a 3-step teaching framework for spelling sprint. First, you're going to plan it. So you're going to pick a spelling focus. So maybe you're going to be focusing on AY. That AY says A. And to do this, you can think about gaps in their encoding. So you can look at the phonics check, and there's a spelling section or encoding section, and you can see what your student's struggling with, your child's struggling with. Spelling typically lags behind word reading development for kids with dyslexia. So they probably are able to read more words, and then actually they're able to spell correctly. And if you want to keep it simple, you can just align this to your phonics focus, or you can actually really see where that lag is, which might be a little farther behind than their actual phonics knowledge or word reading knowledge. And then you're going to pick about 5 to 10 words for dictation with that spelling focus target. So if I'm going to target AY, saying A, I might pick the word play, maybe, and so forth. Now it's time to teach it. For the spelling sprint, first you're going to name and explain and provide an example of the spelling pattern you're teaching. For example, you might say something like, today we're learning the spelling pattern AY. What pattern? We usually use the pattern AY in the middle or end of words to spell the long A sound. What sound? Yes, like in the word play, ray, or maybe. After that, do some guided practice, some we do, where you stretch and spell words to write them. I might say, let's spell a word with the AY spelling. Listen, play. Let's stretch it. P-l-a. Now I want you to spell it on your paper while saying each sound. P-l-a. So you can do a couple of those together where you say the word, you're dictating it, and then you're actually helping them segment or stretch the word. Sometimes it helps to tap each sound on the finger. If you're working with multisyllabic words, you might want to clap each syllable. So you could say clap out transportation. Or you can also have them do something what we call tapping fingers or tapping hands, where they tap each sound and then they spell each sound after they tap it. After providing a few words with guided practice, and again, providing immediate feedback if they make an error and telling them the correct spelling, then do some independent practice. You would just say, stretch and spell the word gray. What word? Gray. And maybe they stretch it and they spell it. Maybe they don't have to. Maybe they do it on their own. But you want to give them some opportunities to practice this independently. And again, after you dictate about 5 to 10 words, you can go back and show them the errors that they made and then have them actually spell those correctly. To adapt it, if your student or your child is struggling, you can scaffold and stretch the sounds out dramatically. So for example, instead of saying, let's stretch sun and go sun, you can do it dramatically with that continuous stretching. Sun. You can also practice spelling phonics patterns in isolation first before spelling whole words. So you might want to do a little warm up and say, write all the ways that you can spell A, which is A-I, A-Y, A consonant E, and so on. If it's too easy for them, you might want to teach multiple spellings at the same time, kind of like with the word workout, A and Y, A-I and A-Y go together, and you can look at the phonics progression I put together on the Google Drive for some ideas of some vowel teams or some spellings that go together nicely. You can also move to multisyllabic words where, again, you're clapping the syllables and working on maybe spelling syllable or word parts. And you can also dictate phrases or sentences. If you want to work on some sentence writing as well within the spelling sprint, you could dictate a phrase or sentence that is aligned to the phonics spelling pattern you're teaching that day. Now we went from sound skills with sound power practice and handwriting hustle, word skills with word workout and spelling sprint, and now finally at the text level, the text skills is the last workout routine, fluency dash. In Fluency Dash, it's an oral reading routine to build reading speed, accuracy, and expression. So here the kids are going to read a familiar passage multiple times, trying to improve their oral reading fluency with each read. So they're reading it more than once. And we have a little comprehension check after this to make sure that meaning stays the goal, not just speed. Remember, the goal of reading is to comprehend what we're reading comprehension. And so we have a little comprehension check here to make sure that while we're reading fluently, we're also comprehending what is happening in the text. Why does this matter though? Well, we know a lot about fluency, and that fluency strengthens the bridge from word reading to reading for meaning. So it's the bridge from our word reading skills to actually reading comprehension. And we know that helping kids with dyslexia read connected text with automaticity gives them space to think about meaning and not just sounding out words. So it really helps free up brain power for understanding. A lot of research shows that when reading is slow and effortful and laborious, kids use so much mental energy just figuring out the words that they have little brain power left to actually understand what they're reading. So this really helps us help them lessen the cognitive load and really read for meaning. Also, the fluency practice can build confidence and motivation. So kids who read choppy and slow often feel frustrated and discouraged. And when they read smoothly or fluently, even just short passages, they start feeling like real readers. So confidence grows, and then so does motivation to practice more. And when we engage them in reading the same passage or text or paragraph or sentence multiple times, it helps them become more confident readers. So first, to do the Fluency Dash, first you're going to plan it. So if your child's maybe in kindergarten to second grade, you can pick or develop a short decodable passage, meaning you're going to have words with phonics patterns they know pretty well. I have a little tip here that ChatGPT, so generative AI, can be really helpful in making some of these passages. So I have a simple prompt here I often use when I work with students. It says, develop a 100-word passage with the phonics patterns AI and AY. Make sure to not include words with more than one syllable. Again, you can customize that prompt. Maybe you put in all the patterns you've taught them so far, and you can really get into it and help prompt ChatGPT to create a really robust decodable passage, or you can keep it a little more open-ended. If you have an upper elementary or more intermediate grade student, you can actually develop more what we call a stretch text. So a text that might be a little challenging for them, but we want it to be really high interest to help engage them. So with that, you can say, you can have them develop a passage on something that your child is interested in. And I would say maybe 200 or 250 words and so forth. So here's an example of a K2 passage that was developed on ChatGPT, just with that prompt I used, using that AI and AY pattern. So you can see here, it does a pretty good job of creating one quickly. And here's a more high interest expository reading passage. This is about hiccups. So why do we hiccup? And I had it develop it at the third grade level. I gave it some criteria and kind of revised it a little bit here. So this is an example of a higher level expository or informational passage. So after you plan it, you're going to teach it. So first, your I do is you're just going to model and set a purpose for reading, which we like to do. So you might say, today we're going to focus on reading as accurately as we can. We're going to focus on reading each word correctly. And then I might preview some key words. So if that passage is informational or at that higher level, that 3rd through 8th grade level I was talking about, or has some tricky words, quickly show the words that they might struggle with and define them. It's great to build some vocabulary in here as well. And the we do here is optional. So for repeated reading, you can engage your child in reading it multiple times. For some students, we like to do a choral read together first, meaning you're going to read the passage aloud at the same time. This, again, helps scaffold it a little bit and build some confidence. Or if you're really working on a certain way of reading, maybe reading prosody, meaning when you come to a question or intonation, sort of your voice goes up. If you want to model that, you can do an echo read. That's where a parent reads a sentence first, the child just repeats it back, echoing them as best they can, and so forth. So after engaging your child in maybe a choral read or an echo read, or maybe you jump right to this as though you do the independent practice where they're going to practice reading the passage multiple times on their own. So this is where the dash part comes in. Here you can see the fluency dash tracker, which is in the Google Drive. And this is where we're going to actually track how many words per minute, correct words per minute, your child's reading. So your child's going to read it first for their first attempt. You're going to start a stopwatch and record their time. And this time, the first time, we're really focusing on accuracy. You're focusing on reading the words correctly. And then after that, you're going to show the child their speed maybe, and then you're going to have them maybe set their goal. So sometimes if the child maybe reads 60 correct words a minute, I'm like, okay, let's look at 60. What's a good goal for your next read? How can you beat that while maintaining your accuracy but increasing some speed? So then the child's going to immediately read it again, trying to beat their time while staying accurate. So we want that sweet spot of not too fast, not too slow, where we're not sacrificing accuracy for speed. That's really where we start to automatically read text and comprehend it in a more proficient level. And then if they beat their time, which usually they do, you can celebrate improvement by giving a sticker, high five, or a small reward if they beat their time. And you can write little notes here on this sheet as well if you would like to. It's just a nice way to motivate your child to beat their goals and making goals in their oral reading fluency. It's a fun way to sort of gamify at the text level. After they read twice or more times, if you would like them to, you can do a quick comprehension check just to make sure that they're understanding the text and gaining meaning from it. Again, the goal of reading. So you might ask a couple quick comprehension questions after the second read, something like, who was the story about, or what happened first? That's a more literal or right there in the text question. You might also ask an inferential question where they have to infer based on what they know and then what the author was writing in the passage. You might say, why did the boy run away? Or why was this part important? To adapt it, if your child's struggling, you can reduce demands always. So using less words, maybe you start with sentences or phrases. That's a really good way for early readers, especially early struggling readers, to lessen the demands there. You could also provide more support. So for when I work with a kindergartner or a first grader who really struggles with reading, we might model it word by word decoding. So we might actually go through a sentence or phrase word by word. If it's too easy for them, maybe extend the passage, maybe making it a little longer. You can create connected passages over the week or month, maybe doing a unit study over the summer. If your child's really interested in a certain topic or has that or interested in a certain area, you might build some passages that connect over the months. And then you can have them compare and contrast texts. Also, you can extend by applying it to writing. Having students write about what they read also can increase their reading comprehension. So here's sort of the overview again. This is putting it all together. So here's the summer reading game plan. So starting with the handwriting hustle, going into sound power practice, the word workout, spelling sprint, and then fluency dash. So I like to have kids and parents think of this as like a summer workout plan. You're flexing different muscles based on what needs strengthening really. So you can use these routines all together. You can also use them separately or expand them based on your child and really what their needs are. You know your child best. So here's how you might customize it. So if your child is good with most phonics skills and concepts, maybe you spend more time on Fluency Dash to build reading accuracy and speed. If your child maybe really struggles with spelling or handwriting, which is a lot of the times common for students with dyslexia, add a little time to spelling sprint and handwriting hustle. Maybe spend some extra time there on that encoding practice. Maybe your child might be a little bit shaky with manipulating speech sounds, so that sound power practice, that phonemic awareness. Spend a little extra time there each day, even in the car. This is a fun way that if you're in the car, driving, or waiting in line at the grocery store, to sort of get some extra practice in with those sound games. You can say, all right, listen to the word. I want you to say the word, listen to the sound, say the word fast. Cat. What word is that? Cat. Again, really easy ways to sort of add that in throughout the day. And it's really always important, I want to note, to end with a success moment. So always celebrating effort, maybe setting a tiny goal for tomorrow, and making sure you're keeping it light and fun, right? This is supposed to be it's a fun literacy workout. Reading oftentimes is really stressful for a lot of our students or a lot of our children that struggle with reading. So it's really important to make sure we celebrate some successes in there to keep that reading motivation going. Here's some other ways on how I like to make it fun or how to motivate and reinforce summer practice. So kids learn better when practice feels doable and rewarding. So giving some rewards there maybe. Also making sure it's doable. That's why that phonics check might be important. We don't want to make it too demanding and too complex. We want to meet our children right where they're at their level so it's doable and it builds confidence. Reinforcement helps kids want to stick with routines and not fight them. So we can think about reinforcement. We can think about providing prizes or maybe extra screen time or something that is going to reinforce your child to show up the next day and practice these routines. It really helps them want to stick with that. And I'm going to talk about a way you can do that. And also, ditching the old reading log can make practice feel like building small wins. So instead of a certain amount of minutes you're reading every day or a book, how many books you read over the summer, that can be daunting for kids with dyslexia. Maybe just checking off doing a couple routines a day. Really, really small wins. Here are some simple reinforcement strategies I put together. So you might want to do a sticker chart. You can do a choice board where your child gets to pick what routine they want to start with that day. You can do mini challenges, like if they beat their fluency time, maybe they get a prize from the prize jar. A summer skill streak where they're tracking how many days in a row they're practicing and giving maybe small rewards for 5, 10, 15-day streaks. Or just a really fun tracker. And that's what I have in that Google Drive there. So if you want to check that out, where students color in a star for each time they finish a routine. And then by the end of a certain amount of days they practice, they get a prize. And so an important schedule reinforcement tip that helps motivate children is to have immediate reinforcement first. So a sticker every day or a sticker every routine. And then building towards bigger goals. So after 5 days, then you pick a special activity or a special thing to do or a special prize. Again, in the Google Drive folder, I have the summer streak tracker here that you can use if you want, where at the beginning of the summer, you might sit down and say, okay, if you do five routines in 5 days, if you have 5 stars, here's what you might get. And then kind of building up there for the rewards they might have for each of their goals. I want to plug an upcoming free webinar I have on Tuesday, June 10th. It's called Beyond the Buzzwords. And really this grew out of parents constantly asking me what dyslexia intervention program is best for my kid. What should I do? And so I decided to do another free webinar that's really going to be focused on what works for kids with dyslexia. We'll talk Orrin Gillingham, Take Flight, Linda Mood Bell, Barton reading, all the programs that parents ask me about. I'm going to break it down. Each program, the research, what the research says, and then think about cost effectiveness, really the cost you're paying, and how we can balance that with time and results. So if you want to sign up for that, you can sign up at tinyurl.com/dyslexiabuzz or always on my website. I'm also launching this summer a very small 6-week series where I'm going to take parents through a deep dive into structured literacy approach to teaching or supporting your child at home. So if this has been helpful for you, if you're looking for something deeper and a structured plan that you can actually become your child's tutor, I'm going to do this 6-week workshop. So it's going to be a very small piloted cohort built directly from research and structured literacy practices that I teach at the graduate level. So I distill all my graduate level teaching into a 6-week course. And if it sounds like a good fit, I can share more with you, and you can go ahead and go on my website as well and check it out. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you listening to the replay of this webinar. Please, if you can, go to my website. You can see all the upcoming webinars and things that I do to support parents and families support their children with dyslexia at home. As always, email me if you have any questions, and I hope to see you at the next webinar. Take care.